I've watched Ocean County sellers lose $45,000, not to a bad deal, not to a market shift, but to a decision they made twice. They downsized, sold a home they'd owned for 26 years, moved into something smaller, and 2 years later, they were sitting across from me again, listing that place too. Wrong size, wrong layout, didn't account for the grandkids, a 6-week recovery after surgery, the reality of 900 square feet in January. By the time both transactions were done, commissions, transfer taxes, closing costs, temporary housing, senior freeze eligibility gone, $45,000. All of it preventable. There are 5 questions that would have stopped it. Most sellers never ask them before they list. Here they are. Before we get to the questions, let's set the baseline, because every decision has to start somewhere. And the right place to start is, what does it actually cost to stay? If you've owned your home in Ocean County for 20 plus years, you already know your property taxes. Maybe $6,000 a year, maybe $9,000. Depends on the town, depends on your assessment. Add homeowners insurance, typically $1,500 to $2,500 a year for a single family home in this area. Now add maintenance. A realistic budget for an older home is roughly 1% of the home's value per year. On a $400,000 home, that's $4,000. Some years it's nothing, some years the roof goes and it's $18,000. And then there's deferred work. The kitchen that's been good enough for a decade, the HVAC that's been on borrowed time, the bathroom that needs to be made safer as mobility changes, that's your stay put number. It's not zero, it's real. Keep it in your head because we're going to compare it to everything else. Imagine a couple in Brick bought their home in 1998, paid $189,000. Back then it was a stretch, but they made it work. Over the next 25 years, they did everything themselves. Built the deck, finished the basement, planted the garden. They know every corner of that house. Every 4th of July, the whole family shows up. Grandkids in the yard, the deck they built with their own hands, neighbors they've known for 20 years, but now the stairs are harder. The lawn is every Saturday from April to October. 3 of the 4 bedrooms sit empty most of the year. The house that felt like the right size for a long time now feels like something they're managing instead of enjoying. They start thinking about a move, and that's a completely responsible thing to think about. But moving has its own math, and most people don't run it before they decide. Here's what a move typically costs in Ocean County right now. On a $450,000 sale, commission runs roughly $18,000 to $22,500, depending on how the deal is structured. New Jersey's realty transfer fee on a sale that size is roughly $2,700 on the seller side. Closing costs, title, attorney, add another $2,000 to $3,500. That's before you move a single box. Now factor in temporary housing if you're selling before you found the next place, or if there's a gap in timing. 2 months of short-term rental in Ocean County runs $5,000 to $8,000. Add moving costs, storage if you need it. All in, a move in this market runs roughly $42,000 to $45,000 from start to finish. That number is not a reason to stay. It's a reason to get the decision right the first time, so you're not running it twice. Question 1. What is your real monthly carry cost in the place you're moving to? This is where people make the first mistake. They compare their current property tax bill to the HOA fee at a 55 plus community. They think they're ahead. HOA fees in Ocean County 55 plus communities run anywhere from $50 a month on the low end to $450 or more in communities with pools, clubhouses, and exterior maintenance included. Some go higher, but the HOA fee is not your total cost. You still have homeowners insurance. You may still have property taxes depending on the structure. And the one that catches people completely off guard, special assessments. If the community roof needs replacing, or the parking lot needs repaving, or there's a capital project that wasn't budgeted, that cost gets distributed to every unit. A $6,000 special assessment per unit is not unusual. It can change your math overnight. Before you make any decision based on monthly cost, ask for 2 years of HOA meeting minutes, and if you can, talk to someone who already lives there, not the sales office. Question 2 sounds simple. Do you own your home free and clear? I had a seller tell me yes. 30 years in the house, mortgage paid off in 2012. Certain. The title search came back with a HELOC from 2008 he'd forgotten about. Opened it during the recession, drew on it once, paid it back, never formally closed it. Still untitled. He found out on Tuesday closing was Friday. It didn't close Friday. Most sellers think they know. Some are wrong, and they find out the worst possible moment. Before you list, call your title company or real estate attorney and ask for a preliminary title review. It costs little to nothing, and it tells you exactly what's recorded against your property before a buyer's clock is running and the pressure is on. A discharge that was never recorded, a lien that was never released. These things exist, and they don't surface until someone goes looking. If you're still carrying a mortgage, get the formal payoff statement from your lender in writing, not a phone estimate. That number is what your net proceeds calculation is built on. Get it wrong, and everything downstream is wrong. Question 3. Do you know where you're going? And have you actually confirmed it's there? I've sat with sellers who had a community picked out for 2 years. They knew the floor plan, they knew which building they wanted, they'd driven past it enough times that they could describe the landscaping. They called for the first time the week after they accepted an offer. 8-month wait list. Now, they're in a short-term rental at $5,000 to $8,000 for 2 months minimum, while they scramble to find an alternative. The clean, confident transition they'd planned for years turned into a gap they hadn't budgeted for, emotionally or financially. The fix is simple, but most people skip it. Call 3 communities before you do that. Not to tour, not to put a deposit down, just 1 phone call each. What's available? What's under contract? What does a typical timeline look like from signing to move in? If the answer doesn't match your timeline, you need to know that while you still have options, not after you've accepted an offer and the clock is running. That's 3 questions down, 2 more to go. And these are the ones most sellers skip entirely. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe and tap the bell. I put out one of these every week. Real numbers, Ocean County specific, no fluff. Question 4 is the one that caused the $45,000 mistake I mentioned at the top of this video. What are your real space needs? Not what sounds right, not what 2 people should need, what you will actually use based on how your life actually works. Imagine a couple who moves from a 4-bedroom home into a 2-bedroom condo. Logical, right? 2 people, 2 bedrooms, except the grandkids visit for 2 weeks every summer. And one of them has a parent who had surgery and needed a recovery stay for 6 weeks. And one of them works from home 3 days a week. 2 years later, they're selling again. The space that made sense on paper didn't work for life they actually live. The sellers who end up moving twice almost always underestimated their real space needs, not their theoretical needs, their real ones. Before you decide on square footage, sit down and map out the last 12 months. Who stayed with you and for how long? What do you need a dedicated room for? What does your life actually require? Get that number right before you sign anything. Question 5. What does this move do to your tax situation, specifically your senior freeze base year? New Jersey's senior freeze program, technically called the Property Tax Reimbursement Program, locks in your property tax base year once you qualify. The state reimburses you for increases above your base. If you've been in the program for several years, you could be saving $1,500 to $3,000 a year or more, depending on how much your taxes have gone up since you first enrolled. When you move, that base year resets. You start over in a new property at today's assessed value, and you have to requalify. That's not a reason not to move, but it's a number that belongs in your calculations. And most people don't find out about it until after the closing. There's also the question of municipal exemptions. Some towns in Ocean County have local senior exemptions layered on top of state programs. Those don't transfer either. Call your tax assessor before you list, not at the closing table, before you list. Here's something most sellers never consider. You may not have to choose between selling and staying exactly as is. Imagine a couple in Toms River. They've run the numbers. Moving would cost them roughly $62,000 all in. transaction costs, temporary housing, the whole picture. The house feels too big and too much work, but the location is right and the mortgage is paid off. They call a contractor instead of a real estate agent. Grab bars in the bathrooms, first floor bedroom conversion, 0-step entry, stair lift. The total project comes in at $18,000. Same house, different house. You don't need a 55 plus community to age safely in place. You need a plan for the house you already own. For some people, selling is the right answer. For others, a targeted investment in the existing home buys 10 or 15 more years at a fraction of the cost of a move. That's the third option, and it's worth running the numbers before you rule it out. So 5 questions: monthly carry cost, free and clear or not, where are you going, and is it actually available? Real space needs, and what happens to your tax picture when you move. If you can answer all 5 with real numbers, not estimates, not assumptions, you're ready to make this decision with confidence, whether that's selling, staying, or doing something in between. Call me directly at 732-244-1774 or download the free 55 plus sellers checklist at ourshowrealestate.net. The link is in the description. Drop the word checklist in the comments and I'll personally make sure you get it. I am Joseph E. Haberl with Our Show Real Estate right here in Toms River. Confidence in your move, certainty in your retirement. I'll see you on the next one.